Amy Stasiewicz, and welcome to The Minutes. Thanks for listening today. It's great to have you along on The Minutes for the week of July 20th. This is the City of Thunder Bay podcast. The Minutes takes a look at what happened at standing committee meetings and city council meetings. You can find The Minutes wherever you get your podcasts, including our YouTube channel and our website, thunderbay.ca/theminutes. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an update. This week, both the Quality of Life and Growth Standing Committees met. We'll go over the main takeaways from the meetings, then I'll sit down with Summer Stevenson, Project Manager with Development Services. So let's get started. Like all meetings, the night began with a land acknowledgement, and then right into the agenda. First, there was a deputation about investing in professional crowd control barriers and storage infrastructure for the Thunder Bay Marina event grounds, specifically for Wake the Giant that happens every September. The proposal is aimed at improving safety, crowd management, and event readiness for the many festivals and gatherings held at the waterfront. This item was referred back to administration, and they'll come back in 2027 with more information. Next was the reports of administration. The first report of administration is about a crossing guard location addition. Administration is recommending a new school crossing guard be added at Bay Street beginning in September 2026. The recommendation follows traffic studies that found the intersection meets the city's criteria for a crossing guard, with an average of 38 students crossing each day and a high number of interactions between pedestrians and vehicles during busy school times. The study also identified concerns about some drivers not always yielding to people crossing the street, making the location a priority for additional safety measures. The proposed crossing guard has received support from both Grand Morgan Public School and Corpus Christi Catholic School, as well as city traffic staff and the Thunder Bay Police Service. The Standing Committee then endorsed the report. The next report of administration is seeking support for a funding application to help restore the historic Hogarth Fountain in Waverly Park, which has been out of service since 2017 due to significant water leaks and aging infrastructure. The proposed project would modernize the fountain, restore the surrounding park space, and introduce a new feature called the Burnford Garden. The garden would honor Thunder Bay's author Sheila Burnford, best known for The Incredible Journey, and would include a family-friendly walking experience inspired by the book and its Northwestern Ontario setting. City administration says adding the garden strengthens the project's tourism and economic benefits, helping align it with the goals of the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund Corporation, which is being asked to contribute half of the project's $2.6 million cost. If funding is approved, design work would continue through 2026, with restoration and construction taking place in phases beginning in 2027. In the end, Standing Committee endorsed, and they will now go to Council for final approval. The next report was a memo to the Quality of Life Standing Committee. City administration has begun reviewing a number of municipal tools that could help protect tenants and maintain housing quality. The review will look at things like strengthening property standards, updating the city's minimum heat bylaw, exploring a potential vital services bylaw, and examining programs used in other communities to support tenants and preserve rental housing. City staff say the goal is to ensure residents have access to safe and secure housing, while recognizing that most landlords already provide quality homes and contribute positively to the community. The work is tied to Council's broader priorities around housing stability, healthy neighborhoods, and homelessness prevention. Protecting existing rental housing and helping people remain safely housed are increasingly seen as important parts of addressing housing challenges before they lead to a crisis. This report is for information only, and no decisions are being made at this time. Research and consultation will continue throughout the year, with potential recommendations expected to come forward in late 2026 and early 2027. For now, the city is beginning the conversation on how best to support both tenants and landlords while maintaining a strong and healthy rental housing system in Thunder Bay. The next report of administration was about the Affordable Access to Recreation and Transit program. The program was launched in 2023 as a pilot project to help make recreation programs and public transit more affordable for residents living on low incomes. Through a single application process, eligible adults can receive a recreation credit and access to discounted monthly bus passes. Now, after 3 years, City administration says the program has been a success. Participation has grown significantly each year, and feedback from participants has been overwhelmingly positive. Many people say the program has helped them stay active, connect with their community, improve their physical and mental well-being, and access important services, jobs, and medical appointments. More than 98% of survey respondents said they would like to see the program continue beyond the pilot. The recommendation heading to council is to include the Affordable Access Program as a permanent service in the city's 2027 budget. Administration is also proposing a slightly smaller participation cap that would still meet community demand while reducing overall program costs. If approved, the program would continue helping residents access recreation, culture, and transit services while supporting a healthier, more connected, and more welcoming Thunder Bay. In the end, there was an amendment made by Standing Committee to limit the program to 200 people, but also allowing administration to have the authorization to go up to 250 participants if necessary. The amendment carried, and that resolution will go to the budget meeting. The final report presented to the Quality of Life Standing Committee was a recommendation that would give the Thunder Bay Public Library Board a greater role in recruiting new board members. After the board requested more involvement in the appointment process, administration reviewed several options and is recommending option 3, which is a selection and recruitment committee model. Under this approach, the city's clerk's office would continue to manage recruitment and verify eligibility. Applications would then be reviewed by a committee that includes appointed counselors, the city manager, and the chair of the library board. The committee would make a recommendation, while City Council would retain final appointment authority. In the end, Standing Committee endorsed the report and will now go to the Council for final approval. All right, so that's it for the Quality of Life Standing Committee meeting update. Next up, the Growth Standing Committee met. There were 2 presentations from City administration. First up was an update on the Central Avenue development lands. The next presentation was from the Director of Development Services, who gave a mid-year update on Build Thunder Bay. Next was the reports of administration. The first report highlighted the Housing Affordability Action Plan, and shortly our guest will be here to explain more about what this means for our community. Next was a mid-year implementation update on the Smart Growth Action Plan. This plan is the city's long-term roadmap for growing the population, expanding the tax base, and creating more opportunities for residential, commercial, and industrial development. 6 months after council approved the plan, city administration says significant progress is already being made. Smart growth priorities have been integrated into city operations, a new project management office has been established, partnerships have been strengthened through the task force growth, and new performance measures are being developed to track progress. The city has also launched a public awareness campaign, complete with branding, project signage, videos, and community engagement activities to help residents connect local projects to Thunder Bay's broader growth strategy. Work is advancing across all 3 pillars of the plan, which are readiness, attraction, and talent. Highlights include progress on housing initiatives, redevelopment projects such as Victoriaville and Pool 6, waterfront improvements, active transportation investments, transit planning, and strengthened partnerships with local post-secondary institutions. While the plan includes more than 100 actions over the next decade, administration says the first 6 months have been focused on building the foundation needed for long-term success. Early signs show both city departments and community partners are increasingly aligning their work with Thunder Bay's growth objectives. Overall, the report shows that Thunder Bay is making steady progress towards its goal of becoming a stronger, more vibrant, and more competitive community. Next was a confidential report about a property-related matter from Realty Services that was discussed in closed session. The final report of administration dealt with a confidential real estate matter. Administration asked the Growth Standing Committee to move into closed session to discuss the potential future sale of several city-owned properties on Francis Street West and part of Metcalfe Avenue. While the specifics of the report remain confidential, the overall goal is to explore opportunities that could support future residential development while ensuring the city protects its interests through this process. The resolution brought into open session was for the lands to be declared surplus, and the final decision will now go to council. Okay, that's it for the Growth Standing Committee meeting updates. Next up, I'll be joined by today's guest to talk more about what's happening with the city's Housing Affordability Action Plan. I'm here in the Minute Studio with Summer Stevenson, Project Manager with Development Services, to walk us through the Housing Affordability Action Plan, the overall goals, and what it could mean for residents and the future of Thunder Bay. Hi, Summer. Thanks for stopping by.
Happy to be here.
Okay, so we'll go over some generic things first, and then maybe you could give us just some more specifics throughout the interview. Okay, so what is the Housing Affordability Action Plan, and why is it needed in general?
So the Housing Affordability Action Plan is the result of our learning over the course of the Housing Accelerator Action Plan that we've been implementing for the last 3 years. So over the last 3 years, we've seen a huge increase in the number of new units being permitted and constructed in Thunder Bay. But what we've been seeing is that almost all new construction caters to median and high income families, and that we still have a lot of work to do when it comes to ways to provide more housing options for lower and moderate income families here in Thunder Bay. So this is the result of that learning, and this is also an outcome of the Smart Growth Action Plan, Action R16, that acknowledges that housing affordability is really important when we talk about Thunder Bay's growth.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, so this kind of dives into the next thing that I'm about to ask. Thunder Bay is often seen as an affordable place to live. Is that kind of still the case?
So it's all relative.
Yeah.
It depends.
Yeah.
If you're looking at, purchasing a single detached home in Thunder Bay, when you compare Thunder Bay to other cities in Ontario, especially Southern Ontario, that comparison makes Thunder Bay look really affordable.
Yeah.
However, when you start to look at the income of people that live in Thunder Bay and the households that we have here, these housing options are becoming more and more out of reach.
Yeah.
So households are having to make more and more money to be able to afford what is available and on the market. So we're still relatively affordable, but it all depends on your household income and what you're comparing Thunder Bay to.
Yeah, for sure. The report talks about a housing deficit. What does that mean for people looking for a home or apartment in Thunder Bay?
So the housing deficit refers to the number of houses that we have per 1,000 usual census residents.
Right,
so that
right.
means people who, when they fill out the census form, they say, I live in Thunder Bay full-time. And so we take that number and we look at the number of houses per 1,000 people. And what we found through this analysis is in 2021, we had a deficit of about 865 homes. What this means is that we have more people than we have houses, which leads to increased price pressures, because the more people that want one thing, the more expensive that thing can become. So we see that 865 number based on the 2021 census. We'll update it again.
Right. I was just wondering about that.
When we receive this census data next year. But what we see when you look at household incomes is a bit of a blurrier picture. Although we have that raw number, if you take a look at the houses, the estimated either purchase price or monthly rent versus household incomes, we actually have a much larger affordable housing deficit, just over 4,000 homes, with a lot of those in the low income category. So that's folks who can afford $975 a month in 2020 dollars. So a little bit different today. And that doesn't mean that all of those people don't have homes, but it may mean that they're paying way more than 30% of their income on housing. They may be living in housing that's unsuitable for their family. So say, a 4 or 5 person family in a 1-bedroom home, or their housing may be unsuitable. So it's not, it's really old, maybe hasn't been repaired. Yeah. So those are the features that are looked at. It's not just like we need 4,000 homes immediately.
Yeah.
But more so, what's the quality of the places that people are living?
Right. Oh my gosh. Yeah, those are really good points. Okay, so before we get into the actual plan, can you explain a bit also about the housing continuum? Like, what is that?
Yeah, so the housing continuum refers to all of the different types of housing somebody may need to occupy. It starts at homelessness and moves all the way up. So from homelessness to transitional housing, supportive housing, affordable rent-geared income housing, affordable market housing, and market housing. So that's the spectrum of different housing options. So with homelessness, it would be an emergency shelter that would be available in a community. And so here in Thunder Bay, we have different housing options for each of those areas on the housing continuum, but some may have more than others. So we know we have a lot of market rate housing and not as much affordable and supportive housing.
Right, yeah. So that's what your goal is. One of the goals.
To increase across that continuum.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so the Housing Accelerator Fund played a big role in recent housing initiatives. Can you explain a bit about what the fund is and why what has helped Thunder Bay achieve everything it has in the last few years?
So the Housing Accelerator Fund was a fund set up specifically for municipalities to increase the number of housing units being permitted in their respective municipalities. So this fund was mainly looked at changing the way municipalities operate for kind of long-term growth. So improving your planning processes, improving your your building permit processes. Activating municipal lands to provide more land for housing. And then in Thunder Bay's case, we also reserved a lot of the funding for direct housing incentives. So grants for multi-units, grants for affordable housing. So this fund has allowed us to provide, a lot of that injection of incentives into the community to help reduce costs for certain types of housing. And we've seen, and in addition, all of the changes to the zoning bylaw and such that have allowed for this boom that we've been seeing. So since 2024, we've issued permits for just over 1,000 new units. That exceeds the number that we saw for the previous almost 5 years. So you can see that we've had a really significant growth. And we still have half the year to go before we're at the end of 2026. So these changes have, we've seen an increase, whether through the multi-units incentivized, whether through, people are building sixplexes instead of fourplexes because the zoning bylaw changed, or through the surplus lands initiative, which has been, a really, really large program here at the city to increase the amount of shovel-ready land for development.
Yeah, it's exciting. Okay, so what were some of the biggest lessons learned from the Housing Accelerator Fund that helped shape this new action plan?
So the biggest thing that we saw is that with the cost of construction, a new market rate multi-unit building is extremely expensive. So even with, the $300,000 grant, so if you were to build up to the maximum amount you could receive through this program would be $300,000, and then $10,000 for the building permit rebate. So even with that amount, it barely makes a dent in the true cost of developing. We also see that in our affordable housing funding program, where $1.3 million, which is the maximum for that, sounds like a lot until the numbers start to roll in, and a 36-unit apartment building starts to come in at $28 million. $30 million. So we've seen that because of those rising construction costs, it's really, really challenging to provide affordable rents. With the market rate rentals, as I mentioned, we see those rents in order to recoup all of those costs are for moderate or median and high income households. And, in the long term, the more supply that we have, the reduced price pressure, things will, start to even out. But in the short term, that doesn't make a dent the housing need for the $975 a month area.
Right.
And really the nonprofit housing sector is the sector that can provide that, but they need a lot of support to do that because, again, the cost of construction doesn't change between the market and not-for-profit sector, but the not-for-profit sector is able to access different funding opportunities to help reduce those costs. So all that to say is that, we learned that incentives are great, but we simply don't have the amount of money that would be required to have every new unit be affordable in Thunder Bay. That amount would far exceed anything that the Housing Accelerator Fund provided. So this helps shape the direction of the action plan to look at, okay, what are the small things that the city of Thunder Bay can do to help make that development picture easier. Recognizing that we are not the level of government, that should be providing large amounts of capital funding to build new buildings.
Yeah. This plan includes 44 actions. So what are some of the key actions you want residents to know about?
So, of the 44 actions, there are kind of what we're calling 4 core programs in this plan. The first is the Affordable Housing Concierge Service. This is a service that we've been piloting through the Housing Accelerator Fund, where we have a city staff member who helps not-for-profit organizations navigate that development process. So what do you need to do? If you're a nonprofit organization, you have a vision, you want to build housing for your client base, your mandate. What do you do? It's really complicated. Development's challenging. It's hard, even under the best, most ideal circumstances. Mm-hmm. So this concierge service helps provide that connection both with city departments and then also external services as well to help clear issues as they arise, help, direct. So here are some of the things that you'll want to consider. Here are some of the studies that you may need to get done. And this service has been, very valuable for moving the groups receiving the Affordable Rental Housing Funding Program funding through to the building permit and then construction phase. So that's one of the big pieces of this plan is, one of the things the city can do is we can provide that capacity building support. Yeah. So we're recommending that this service continue and be extended and then also expanded. The second is a seed funding program. So in order to apply for a fund like Build Canada Homes, your project needs to be considered shovel ready. So that means that you need to have the conceptual drawings, the cost estimates, the operating pro formas. You need to have all of that information. Getting that information is pretty costly. Mm-hmm. And if you're a nonprofit organization who doesn't have a huge operating budget, there's no guarantee you'll receive funding if you invest in these plans. Yeah. A seed funding program can help cover that gap for a much smaller grant amount from the city's end. Yeah. So, I was talking about the Housing Accelerator Fund, $300,000 grants, $1.3 million. With seed funding, we can, start at $100,000 for seed funding to help support those groups to get to that shovel-ready status and pursue funding to make those programs a reality. The third core program is the municipal land allocation and discount. So the municipality has been working to identify lands through call for proposals processes where builders have been submitting proposals for what they would like to see. So we propose a specific call for affordable housing. So tailored to meet the needs that we saw in our housing needs assessment, that would be specific to the affordable non-market sector. Mm-hmm. This is also accompanied with a land discount. The city currently offers a discount for not-profits. However, it was set in 2002, so it provides 25% up to $25,000, which was phenomenal in 2002. We're in a very different market reality. So re-looking at that land discount, coming up with a sliding scale to offer, a much greater discount if you have a lot of very affordable units. Mm-hmm. So that would be a large piece as well, which would come through to council. Each one of these programs would come through. Yeah. And then the final is property tax relief. So that's another tool the municipality has instead of big capital funding where that's a lot of money up front. Property tax relief can provide reduced operating costs for the nonprofits to be able to offer lower rents. If you think about, some folks, if you own a single detached bungalow in Thunder Bay, you pay about $300 to $350 a month in taxes.
Yeah.
If you think about $975 a month in rent, and if you're paying $300 in taxes, the numbers starts to become clearer as to why rents can be so high.
Yeah.
So this would be another program to consider for those affordable units.
Yeah. What is your hope for the future of this plan? I know that's a loaded question.
So, there's a lot of steps to come when it comes to this plan. So the requests for funding. So in order to execute the core programs in this plan, we would require, about $350,000 a year. So those requests will move forward to the budget process for consideration. Should those be approved or we receive funding from an unknown source at this time, but should we receive it, then the plan will go to City Council for endorsement to move some of those actions forward. But it's really important that we take that step, make sure that these are things that we can support in the budget, because without some of those major pieces, we'll have to revisit what is possible with the resources that we already have. But my hope is that, as the Housing Accelerator Action Plan comes to an end at the end of the year, the Housing Affordability Plan becomes the next focus. And we really, set up an enabling set of policies and programs so that non-market housing providers can build more housing. If we looked from 2018 to before the affordable program in 2024, there was 68 non-market units that were issued building permits.
Whoa.
And so that's 68 in, a 6-year period. Through the Housing Accelerator Fund program, we've awarded funding for just almost 170 units, 92 of which have already received building permits. So we've seen that increase. And my hope is that, through these programs, we can continue to increase that number to hit that 20% target that we have, and 20% of all new units are affordable.
Right. Yeah, and we talked about growth, but we're wanting more people to move here, but there needs to be houses for them, and it's all connected, right?
Yeah, and affordable housing is so important because if if you're spending more than 30% of your income on your housing, then that's less money that you're spending on food, on local services, on local businesses, on education, and the like. So it's really important that we play our role as a city and look for opportunities to help this sector, because having affordable housing opportunities is good for our community, our well-being, but also our economy as well. So it's a really central piece of the growth picture.
Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, so that's a wrap. Thanks for the update, Summer, and thanks for taking time to come and chat with me today.
Yeah, thank you.
That's it for this week's episode of The Minutes. A big thank you to Summer Stevenson for joining me. If you want more information about City Council, agendas, or minutes, visit thunderbay.ca/council. You can catch the minutes every week wherever you get your podcasts, on our YouTube channel, or on our website at thunderbay.ca/theminutes. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you never miss an update. I'm Amy. Thanks again for listening to The Minutes, and have a great week.